Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, September 24. Craig White in bombshell claim over Rangers HMRC dispute. Report by David Irvin. Craig White has claimed a senior HMRC official admitted a deal should have been struck with Rangers to avoid the insolvency disaster. The former Rangers owner, who bought the club in 2011, has opened up on walking into a £50 million debt at Ibrox after purchasing a controlling stake from Sir David Murray. White, who sold his controlling interest in 2012, has claimed he made desperate appeals to strike a deal to avoid insolvency, as he urged HMRC officials to find a deal with Rangers. Branding discussions over a deal like banging your head against a brick wall, White has claimed there was no appetite for a structured deal with the club. However, after the insolvency disaster, White has claimed a senior figure at HMRC admitted a deal should have been done with Rangers instead of an uncontrolled administration process. On Craig Campbell SEO's New Money Down Deals podcast, White stated, "The end outcome, assuming that the tax authorities refused to do a deal, which they did, although they did say after the disaster of the insolvency process at Rangers, the main guy at HMRC did say, we should have done a deal, which I told him many times, that he should have done a deal. But they didn't want to know. I told them administration is going to be a disaster and should be avoided in doing it in this uncontrolled way, but they didn't want to listen." Explaining the debt situation when he took over as Ibrox owner, White said, "It became clear within a few weeks of buying the club that this debt of at least £50 million was going to come due at some point. And the problem with a high-profile business, which is in the press every day, living in Scotland, there are stories about Rangers every day. Any other company that has this potential liability that can put them out of business, they can sweep it under the carpet for a bit until the clock chimes, as it were. But with a high-profile business, you've got all this social media chat, news media saying there is a devastating debt, so it makes it very difficult for the business to continue. I had conversations with HMRC saying, look, we've got to find a solution to this, and we've got to find it quickly, or else the club cannot continue. But trying to deal with a government department is like banging your head against a brick wall. They don't want to know. They've got their procedures, and they are not interested in having a rational conversation like two people in business would have. They have got their bureaucratic procedure to go through. It quickly became apparent there was no option but for Rangers to go through an insolvency process, which would get rid of the debt, as it were. What should have happened is they should have gone through that insolvency process very quickly, in the first 2 months, instead of leaving it until several months later. Report by David Irwin. Evening Times Sport, September 24. Falkirk ready to handcuff McGlynn to the stadium. Report by Graham McGarry. Finn Yates has joked that the Falkirk players are ready to handcuff John McGlynn to their stadium, if that's what it takes to keep him at the club, with their manager's stock only rising further by the hugely creditable display that his team put on at Celtic Park over the weekend. McGlynn refused to compromise on his attacking principles at the home of the Scottish champions, and his team led the encounter twice through Ross McIver and then from a well-placed Yates header before Celtic's reinforcements finally steamrolled the tiring championship outfit in the latter stages of the contest. Their display, though, won plenty of plaudits, and they are currently on a 43-game unbeaten streak in the league. Little wonder then that McGlynn's name is being mentioned in connection with vacancies higher up the ladder, with his former club Hearts the latest to be linked with a move for the 62-years-old. Yates knows that the time may finally come when Falkirk can no longer keep hold of their manager, but he is hoping that day is still some way off. And he said, "He's massive. He'd just come in when I first signed for Falkirk, and you could tell already he had a game plan and a 2-year project. Look at what we've done. We were invincible last season and still unbeaten in the league this year. He's great for the confidence of the boys and a great manager for us players, as he helps you out and wants you to get on the ball. I am not surprised there is interest in him. Do we want to handcuff him to the stadium? I think the fans do too. He's been so on the ball for a couple of seasons now. That's up to John, but I'm pretty sure he'd like to stay. We'll find out, but hopefully we will be in the Premiership next season, playing against the top boys. We can't get too excited, as there's usually a drop-off after games like Sunday, but we need to get back to business." Yates is sure that the eventual scoreline at Celtic Park will not dent Falkirk confidence when they return to championship duty, and is in fact convinced that their performance will boost their morale further as they look to make trips to the east end of Glasgow a more regular occurrence next season. That is particularly the case for him personally, with his goal just before half-time a moment he will carry with him for quite some time. And he continued, "I don't score too many goals, to be honest. I think I've scored about once in 2 years. It was a good ball, and I headed it cleanly, back across the goal, and it trundled in. It was probably the biggest moment in my career, and I'll remember it for a good while. I was looking to do a knee slide. It was a good time to score, right on half-time, but they brought on their big boys, and they finished us off. I've got legs, even though I came off with cramp after 65 minutes. The first half was about getting up to the box as much as possible. Overall, I was delighted with my performance. We are quite a confident group, and we showed that on Sunday by playing our stuff and not lying down to Celtic. But to go there and score 2 goals should give us massive belief we can go and take this league by storm. It's still really early, so it's about getting back to business against Race Rovers. The boys were saying afterwards it was such a buzz going there, and you want to go there twice a season. We can take confidence from knowing we can go there and play. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, September 24. Scotland defensive woes continue with yet another injury. Report by Mark Walker. Scotland are set to be hit with another defensive problem for their Nations League double-header with Croatia and Portugal after Scott McKenna suffered a hamstring injury. Steve Clarke's side have been missing injured trio Kieran Tierney, Aaron Hickey and Nathan Patterson with long-term setbacks, while Greg Taylor, Liam Cooper and Jack Hendry all did not feature in the squad for the defeats to Poland and Portugal last month. Now Las Palmas stopper McKenna has been laid low with a hamstring injury suffered during training and looks extremely doubtful to make the matches in Zagreb and Glasgow. A statement from the La Liga club said, Scott McKenna has a muscle injury in his left hamstring, which occurred during the training session. McKenna has been involved in Scotland's last 6 games and has started the last 3 of them, including the 1-0 defeat to Hungary in the final game of Euro 2024 in Stuttgart. The former Aberdeen stopper has made 5 appearances for his new club in La Liga so far. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, September 25. German football legend slams Dortmund captain ahead of Celtic match. Report by Mark Walker. Borussia Dortmund should strip German international Emre Can of the captaincy ahead of their Champions League showdown with Celtic, according to legend Lothar Matthaus. The Hoops travel to the Westfalen Stadium next week for their second game in the new look competition after getting off to a stunning start with a thumping win over Slovan Bratislava. But Dortmund were rocked after being slaughtered by Stuttgart in a 5-1 Bundesliga defeat at the weekend. New manager Nuri San confirmed he would retain Can as captain, even though he is now not a regular first-choice pick for Dortmund and was benched in the defeat to Stuttgart. And Matthaus, the first player to play in 5 consecutive World Cups and now a top TV pundit, reckons BVB have to make changes soon. He said, "For me, a captain has to be a regular player. It has nothing to do with Emre Can as a person, but I would choose a different player as the captain." And Dortmund sports director Sebastian Kehl slammed his own players after their weekend loss and urged improvement ahead of tomorrow's derby with Bochum and showdown with Celtic. He said, "Everyone should take a look at themselves. Apart from a small number of players, I did not see anyone who was in form or who gave the feeling that they wanted to win the game. That was very, very bad. We are very disappointed and really angry. Every player should be really angry too. We lost every 50-50 ball and were always too late." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, September 25. Malmo add to Rangers rivalry in blunt social media message. Report by David Irvin. Malmo have stoked their rivalry with Rangers ahead of the Europa League clash between the clubs tomorrow. The Swedish club host Rangers in the first Europa League matchday of the competition, and a Malmo social media post ahead of the match referenced previous meetings between the clubs, with a mention of Rangers' time in the third division of Scottish football. Rangers faced Malmo in Champions League qualifying back in 2011, crashing out of the competition after a 1-0 loss at home was followed by a 1-1 draw in Sweden. The Ibrox side faced Malmo in the Champions League third round qualifying again in August 2021. The Swedish side would again emerge victorious with a 2-1 scoreline in both legs. However, the end result of the seasons in 2011-12 and 2021-22 were hugely contrasting, with Malmo highlighting the change from playing in the third division, the fourth tier of Scottish football, and finishing as runners-up in the Europa League 3 years ago. A short video on the Malmo social media channels showing highlights of meetings between the clubs read, "When we met in 2011, you ended up in the fourth division. When we met in 2021, you ended up in the Europa League final. Welcome back to Rangers. We've missed you." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, September 25. Kelly Boss says St Mirren draw a real low for refereeing department. Report by Gavin McCafferty. Kilmarnock manager Derek McInnes believes improvement is needed from Scotland's referee department following a real low of the performance in the recent draw with St Mirren. A new weekly review panel set up by the SFA unanimously decided that Saints defender Sean Rooney should have been sent off for violent conduct after twice kicking Kyle Vassell as the Killie captain lay on the ground with the ball between his feet. Referee Matthew McDermott gave a free kick to St Mirren, and video assistant Andrew Dallas saw no need to intervene. Joe Wright was later sent off for violent conduct following a VAR review after clashing with Rooney at a corner during the 2-2 draw in Paisley. St Mirren were awarded a penalty and had a stoppage time goal disallowed following a VAR intervention, and McInnes feels head of referees Wooly Collum must bring improvements in standards as well as better transparency. McInnes felt Kilmarnock would probably have won if the officials did their job right, and added, "We felt really let down on some of the decisions. That has now been validated by the referee department. It was validated by a phone call that I had with Wooly Collum on the Monday after the game. There's not much they can do after the event, and I accept that. There's a need for them to be better, and they should have been better. But I thought it was a real low for the refereeing department, that performance." McInnes is pleased to see the new weekly panel decisions being published, but believes that is the least clubs can expect. The Kilmarnock boss, who phoned Collum on the Monday after the game, added, "I feel I've always had a good line of communication with Wooly when he was a referee, as a player or a manager. I'm not here to praise the referee department, Wooly in particular, because they're being transparent. I think it's the way it should be, and I'm glad that he sees it that way. I do think he's a guy who will make change and get things right over time, and I think he will implement a standard that's needed. I think we've got some really good referees and good officials in the country, but we've also got a few who need some work. And for me, it's quite galling, the fact that a St Mirren player involved plays next week and Joe gets a 3-day ban. If that had happened to an old firm club, you would still be going on about it forever. It had a huge impact on the result, but it was just seen as a bad day at the office for we Kilmarnock, who move on. We just felt so let down. I couldn't believe what was happening, to be honest, with one or two decisions. The panel backed the referee's decision to only book Mikael Mandarin for catching right with an arm, and McInnes said, "The Mandarin one I'm okay with, to be honest. The fact that Willie said it should have been a red card offence doesn't help us at the time, but it certainly would have if St Mirren had been down to 9 men halfway through the first half. But the other one, I thought there was no place for that type of behaviour by any player on a football pitch, and it should have been dealt with." Report by Gavin McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, September 25. Gregor Townsend to undertake climbing challenge. Report by Lana Mackay. Scotland rugby head coach Gregor Townsend is said to undertake a gruelling fundraising climbing challenge in memory of former teammate Tom Smith. The former Scotland captain died in April 2022 from colon cancer at the age of 50. He had played 6 successive Test matches for the British and Irish Lions. Townsend, accompanied by his wife Claire, Tom's widow Zoe, and 11 other amateur trekkers, will set out to scale 4 peaks in 4 days on the Ginza Ridge in the northern Japanese Alps later this month. The group will start at 4 a.m. each morning to take on Mount Subakuru, Mount Otensho, Mount Jonen, and Mount Chogataki. The challenge was created by colon cancer charity Fortitude, of which Tom was a patron. It aims to raise £100,000 to set up the Tom Smith Screening Fund, which will fund colon cancer screening in younger people. By 2030, it is expected that colon cancer will be the leading cause of cancer-related death in men and women under 50 globally. Since the early 1990s, the incidence of colon cancer in the UK for 25 to 49-year-olds has increased by 50%. Townsend said, "Tom was one of the best players to ever play for Scotland, to play in the professional era and be so consistent both at club level, but, in particular, when he got to play for Scotland and the Lions, made him special. He was often one of the best players, if not the best player, on the field. He was unusual for a prop in that he had the strength to cope and thrive in the scrums, but also was one of the most skillful players. He could easily have played in the back line, which was probably what he wanted to do. Any player who played 6 tests in a row at Lions level has to be special." To prepare for the trip, Townsend and his wife Claire have been walking in the Eildon Hills near their home in the Scottish borders. The Scotland head coach has also done a charity climb in the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, and he said, "This will be tougher, it will certainly challenge the fitness, and it's a day more and a higher range than in the Atlas Mountains. The weather has a chance of being very variable, When you get to such a high altitude, you get extremes of hot and cold, but we will just have to embrace it. It is important for a number of reasons, mainly to do it in Tom's name. Tom was an ambassador for Fortitude, a charity set up to reduce the number of people affected by colon cancer. We want to make sure that Tom's legacy in that role and his memory is driving us forward. The money we raise here can really help the charity make a difference. Zoe Smith added, in doing this trek in Japan, it's an opportunity to keep the work that Tom was doing going. You can find out more about Fortitude and their challenges at www.4otude.org.uk/pages/events/category/events. Evening Times Sport, September 25. Malmo security chief warns of rivals in Rangers' end of Europa League tie. Report by Mark Walker. Malmo security chiefs have admitted their match against Rangers is high risk after fans from their bitter rival club Helsingborgs bought tickets for the Europa League clash to support the Ibrox club. Rangers start their campaign in the new look format with an away game in Malmo tonight. Around 1,000 Rangers fans are expected to attend the game at the Beleda Stadion, but Swedish intelligence has indicated that supporters of Helsingborg have bought tickets in the Malmo end to support Rangers, with whom they claim an affiliation. The derby between the two clubs has long been a power keg fixture, and in 2011 the match had to be abandoned after Helsingborg keeper Per Hansen was knocked down by a Malmo fan. Malmo head of security Peter Narby admitted he is concerned ahead of the match against Rangers and said, "We know there's a friendship there between Helsingborg's fans and Rangers fans. There may be a risk that they want to present themselves in a negative way. We are aware of that. It is likely that there will be Helsingborg's supporters who have bought tickets in the home section, but that does not necessarily mean they are behaving badly. It is important to point that out." Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, September 26. Historic golf hotel becomes unofficial clubhouse. Report by Christy Dorsey. An iconic St Andrews Hotel is set to become the unofficial clubhouse for the town's university golf programme. Overlooking the 18th hole of the Old Course, Russack's St Andrews has become an official partner of Saints Golf, which hosts more than 350 members from the University of St Andrews. From this academic year, the hotel will provide a place for members to gather and a venue to host visiting teams and events. Saints Golf provides opportunities for beginners with its partners the St Andrews Links Trust to support elite golfers. The programme's golf scholarships give players the support needed to elevate their game while pursuing academic studies. Saints Golf Performance Scholars represent the university in tournament golf around the world, competing domestically within the British Universities and Colleges Sport BUCS calendar and across Europe as part of the R&A Elite Student Tour. Additional competitive opportunities include invites to high-level tournaments in North and South America. Ian Muir, Director of Golf at St Andrews, said, "I am thrilled to announce an exciting new partnership with the iconic Rusacks St Andrews Hotel. This collaboration is a harmonious blend of tradition and modernity, reflecting the deep-rooted heritage of St Andrews, while embracing the forward-thinking vision that drives our golf team. Together, I look forward to championing excellence at the home of golf." Lucy Jameson, captain of the Saints first team, said, "It will be an incredible honour to wear the Rusacks St Andrews logo as part of the partnership agreement." The hotel, standing proudly above the 18th hole of the Old Course, is a true symbol of St Andrews' legendary golfing tradition. Being associated with such an iconic landmark fills us with immense pride, and we feel privileged to represent an establishment so deeply rooted in the history of our sport. Rusacks is owned by the Marine and Lawn Hotels Group, and the partnership will give travelling players access to other hotels and resorts within the collection. Hotel General Manager Seamus Cohen said, "It is such a privilege to partner with the University of St Andrews to support our next generation of elite golfers. Attracting a younger and diverse group to the sport is the way of the future, and we feel honoured to be a part of that process." Report by Christy Dorsey. Evening Times Sport, September 26. Rangers boss reacts to news he'll have money in January transfer window. Report by Stuart Wilson. Philippe Clement has suggested that the Rangers hierarchy may address why recruitment throughout the summer provided a challenge in the near future. The Rangers boss was speaking a day after stand-in chairman John Gilligan promised him extra funds to bolster his squad when the transfer window opens again in January. The Light Blues endured a high turnover during the close season, with several experienced stars leaving the club and subsequently being replaced by younger project players. Clement has received scrutiny for a below-par start to the domestic season, yet remains under contract at Ibrox until 2028 after penning at the beginning of August, and Gilligan is determined to back the Rangers manager during the forthcoming transfer window. Said Gilligan, "The manager has brought in some good, exciting young players. He is trying to take the age of the squad down, trying to get the trading model correct, and I think this is the moment when we hopefully back the manager. I will put myself on the line here and say we are backing this manager. This man has made a lot of changes in the background. We are starting to see that coming, and we just look forward to the weeks and the months ahead. There will be money for Clement to spend in January. I think with any manager, at any football club, if you can sell and make a profit, then it helps with the buying. It does not depend on it, but it certainly adds to it and helps with the whole opportunity of improving. We keep talking about the player trading model because ideally we want to be able to bring in players and get them to play properly for the team and do well, but hopefully we sell them on and reinvest. We will have accounts coming out quite soon, and at the AGM it will become apparent that the financial sustainability is solid. Discussing the topic of recruitment prior to Rangers' first UEFA Europa League match of the new campaign against Malmo, Clement stated, "It is important and it is necessary. It was not easy in the summer. We talked about that. Maybe the people in the club will talk about that later on in the next couple of months, about that situation. Of course, as a manager, you hope to get more funds in to do the right thing for the club. But with the resources that were there, I think everybody is starting to see that a lot of good things have been made. And it is now interesting to work with that and to focus on that. And then, of course, to plan towards January, what we are doing already, and to plan towards next summer. We are also busy with that, but that's our job. And with recruitment to do, it is important to have money to do the right things for the club." Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, September 26. Ayr boss Brown withdraws from race to become St Johnstone manager. Report by Robbie Hanratty. St Johnstone are reportedly down to the final two candidates in their search for Craig Levine's replacements. Levine was axed from his managerial role at McDermott Park last week after a run of 4 consecutive defeats. Ayr United boss Scott Brown, Larne's Tiernan Lynch, and Aberdeen first-team coach Peter Levin were all believed to be on St Johnstone's shortlist. But Brown is the first potential gaffer who has withdrawn his interest following talks with Saints owner Adam Webb. Webb was keen to get the ex-Celtic captain at the helm, but instead Brown has opted to remain at Ayr, who currently top the Scottish Championship after 7 matches. St Johnstone are thought to have already asked Aberdeen for the green light to discuss the prospect with Levin as they weigh up their options. Meanwhile, Lynch has been warned that the grass is not always greener by jumping ship and heading to Scottish football. That's according to Cliftonville coach Gerard Little, who has been in a similar position himself, and he insisted there are a lot of things to take into consideration if offered the chance to manage outside Northern Ireland. He told the Irish Times, "We have got lots of great talented players in this league and talented managers as well, and it's great to see them being looked at now. I was in a similar scenario when I left Cliftonville to go to Sligo. Going by my experience, something that I would advise any young manager to do is do your homework on the club first and foremost, see where they are and what they expect from you. Obviously, budgets come into play, expectations, where they want to see you in the league, whether it's winning the league, qualifying for Europe, or staying in the league. And then family plays a big part. You've got to factor that in massively if kids and schooling is involved. Maybe your wife, what her career path is as well. There's lots to take into consideration, and the grass is not always greener. For me now, seeing our league and watching it grow year in, year out, it's great. The opportunities here are a lot better because there are more opportunities to be involved full-time, and we all want to be involved in full-time football, and no doubt it's our livelihood. I would say for any manager, whether it's Tiernan or David or Oran Kearney before that, you have to be sure and make sure you have good backing in terms of support. Report by Robbie Hanratty. Evening Times Sport, September 27. Clermont impressed as Rangers start Europa League campaign. Report by Ronnie Esplin. Philippe Clermont hailed Rangers' convincing 2-0 win over Malmö in the Europa League opener in Sweden as their best performance of the season, but is looking for more. Midfielder Nedum Bejrami scored his first goal for the Ibrox club in less than a minute, and the visitors passed up more chances before and after substitute Ross McCausland fired in a superb second in the 76th minute to seal the win on matchday 1. Asked if it was the best performance of the campaign to date, Clermont said, "Yes, I think so, but it doesn't mean it's going to stay the best that we've had. I think we need to work hard to make it better, and that's what we're going to do." It was the perfect start to the campaign, and the perfect start to the game. Malmö are a really difficult opponent to play against. They play with a lot of running actions, but in a chaotic style. It's difficult to defend against. My players did a massive job sticking to the plan all game, all 90 minutes. The guys who started, the guys who came on, and we used the space also in a really good way with the ball. So it was a very mature performance that I saw from my team. The only small thing you can say is if you kill off the game in the first half, then it's different again. But I think they showed a really good game today, and we will continue working on the finishing. The Belgian explained, "I am a perfectionist, but I've been now 30 years in this football world. I never played myself the perfect game, and I have never seen my team play the perfect game. But it is something you strive for, and you work on that to look at all the details that you can improve, but also not forgetting the good things that we are doing, and you see more and more that players are getting connections. If you see how many new players were on the pitch today who were not here 1 or 2 months ago, the team has already made a massive step forward to play that kind of football in this environment against that kind of opponent." Clermont singled out Northern Ireland international McCausland, whose drive in off the post from the edge of the box gave the Light Blues some breathing space. And he added, "I don't want to point out one player out of this game, but I'm going to do it because he's quite a symbol about working hard and getting the reward. That's Ross. 6 months ago, if he came on his left foot, there was no quality in his shots or in his passes because he was not used to doing that. But he's been working really hard every day with the staff to get the right shots in, first post, second post, to look at the goalkeeper, to get the good technique, to get the good power. In that way, he had almost a very important one against Dynamo Kiev, and he has now a really important one in Malmö, because it's a massive goal at that moment to kill off the game and to take even more control. It's about hard work, repeating, making mistakes, but making it better. And that's the way we're going to keep on working with the whole squad together. But Ross is a symbol in that way because of the goal he scored." Report by Ronnie Esplin. Evening Times Sport, September 27. Whisky pairing for Highland Pro-Am golf courses. Report by Christy Dorsey. The distillery behind the reigning best whisky in the world is teeing up a new club collection, by pairing a trio of its whiskies with three of Scotland's most prized championship golf courses. Tomatin Whisky has matched a fight of its best single malts, with each of the courses hosting this year's £50,000 top prize Highland Golf Links HGL Pro-Am, which gets underway with 75 teams on Monday. Royal Dornoch, judged to be second in the world's greatest golf courses by Golf Digest. Four-time Scottish Open host Cabot Highlands, and Nairn, which broke into the world's top 100 rankings earlier this year, have had their distinct courses matched with whisky flavourings by distillers. Each course provided an outline of how players described the challenge, conditions and surrounding environment of playing their greens, which were given to experts at Tomatin who added their own first-hand playing knowledge. They then matched the flavouring from their collections to the distinct characteristics of each course, which will be served up to whisky and golf fans as the first time at this year's event. Tomatin whisky expert Alistair Ferns said it was a difficult undertaking. "That was a very, very tough task, I have to say," Mr. Ferns told the HGL podcast. "I think on a very simplistic level, some people might think oldest whisky, oldest golf course. But the enjoyable part would be getting to know our whiskies a little bit better, and then giving it a bit of thought after they have sampled the whiskies. I would do it that way." A keen golfer himself, Mr. Ferns added, "When I first started here, I was quite surprised but pleased to find my employer supports Scottish golf to that extent. The enjoyment of whisky to me is very much to do with time, place and company. It's who you are with, it is where you are, and it's the occasion." Tomatin, which is sponsoring the HGL Pro-Am, is also putting up a 45-year-old bottle for the professional event winner, a 36-year-old charity prize for My Name 5 Doddy Foundation, special edition bottles for all those taking part, and a cask for anyone bagging a hole-in-one. Jeremy Matt, head of golf and operations at Cabot Highlands and lead for the HGL Pro-Am, said, "There's simply no other part of Scotland that offers a flavour of views and quality of golf in the way we can, so the chance to also match that unique experience with the best whiskies in the world with Tomatin was such a wonderful opportunity. All our clubhouses are already very well acquainted with Tomatin, given its popularity among our members and its status as the world's best dram, so their ongoing support and sponsorship for the Pro-Am has been a real source of pride for us. Tomatin is currently judged the world's best whisky after its 36-year-old Highland single malt was crowned winner at the internationally renowned San Francisco World Spirits Competition. The HGL Pro-Am offers the biggest prize pot on the Tartan Tour of Pro-Am events. Alistair Ferns Tomatin whisky pairing menu. Royal Dornoch. I paired Dornoch with our 18-year-old. I stuck with what I'd call our accessible range, and I would say our 18-year-old is at the top of that. It has won gold at the International Wine and Spirits Awards for the last 3 years. It is complex, it is elegant, it's delightful, so I think that goes very well with Dornoch. Cabot Highlands. I've paired Cabot Highlands with our Legacy. Legacy is youthful, bright, fresh and very approachable. It is the course I've played most recently, and no matter all the visits I've made, I've always enjoyed it. No matter what other more expensive, older whiskies I have enjoyed, I still enjoy a glass of Legacy. Nairn Golf Club. My impression of Nairn is it's pretty muscular, it packs a punch, and the golf there can be very intense. I have paired it with our cask strength whisky, which is matured in bourbon and sherry barrels, is 57.5% alcohol, so it can be a challenge for some people, but very, very enjoyable, packed full of flavour, and if you treat it the right way, it will be very satisfying. Report by Christy Dawsey. Evening Times Sport, September 27. How much have Rangers earned with Europa League win? Report by David Irvin. Rangers have banked a winning bonus from their first Europa League tie of the season. Philippe Clement's side kicked off their European campaign with a 2-0 win over Malmö in Sweden, and in doing so they earned a win bonus for the club, with money up for grabs throughout the league phase for wins and draws. The victory in Sweden has earned Rangers €450,000, £375,000 from UEFA. A draw in the Europa League comes with a €150,000, £125,000 bonus. Rangers have already banked £3.6 million for qualifying for the league phase of the Europa League this term. That fee is separated into a down payment of €4.14 million and a balance of €170,000. Rangers know they will also earn at least €75,000, £62,000 for their involvement in the league phase, with that figure increased by €75,000 for every position above bottom they finish in the table. Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, September 27. Lifting alcohol ban at football grounds to be seriously considered. Report by Alistair Ferguson. The Scottish Government would give serious consideration to lifting the alcohol ban at football grounds, as one MSP said the game has moved on from the 1980s. Selling alcohol at football grounds across Scotland has been banned since 1980, following a riot at the Scottish Cup final between Celtic and Rangers, which was attributed to drunk fans. Controversially, football supporters can drink alcohol in hospitality, but fans sitting in the ground cannot. SNP MSP George Adam has now called on the Scottish Government to have a rethink of the ban, and said that selling alcohol at football grounds could be done safely if under a controlled environment. He said, "Things have moved on in football, and we need to look at this as a way of helping football clubs being able to generate more money. You already have alcohol at football games in corporate. It's just a case of finding other areas or zones in grounds to do that, and make sure it's a safe and controlled environment." I think in these challenging economic times, it gives them another string to their bow, another chance to make some money as well. And that goes back into our football teams, which we all support and hope do well. Adam used rugby as an example of how alcohol can be consumed at sporting events, and that it still maintains a family-friendly environment. He also said that smaller clubs in the Scottish football pyramid would benefit hugely from a lift of the ban, and was open to the idea of a pilot run to see if it was viable. Health Secretary Neil Gray responded positively to Adams' comments as he said, "We have not had any proposal yet from football authorities as to what that would look like or how that would be managed, but any proposal will be given serious consideration in light of the situation we are talking about on the risk to harm." Report by Alistair Ferguson. Evening Times Sport, September 27. Malmo boss says, "I am obviously stupid." Report by David Irvin. Furious Malmo boss Henrik Rydstrom stated, "I am obviously stupid," in a bizarre post-Rangers meltdown. The manager made the statement in the aftermath of the 2-0 Europa League loss to Rangers. The Malmo boss was quizzed on his pre-match comments regarding a social media message aimed at Rangers ahead of the fixture, as he offered a frustrated response. Rydstrom, who stated in a social media post referencing Rangers playing in the third division and also being in the Europa League final after facing Malmo on separate occasions, was a bit of fun, fumed after his side crumbled. In his pre-match press conference, Rydstrom had also suggested there was nothing wrong with the social media message, as he said of previous results, "It will probably happen again. I have not seen the video, but if I know our media department, it's done with a lot of love, and I think we need that in football. I believe it's a good one, and it's never a bad thing to remind the opponent that this happened before, and it will probably happen again." When pushed on his pre-match remarks, he said, "You can ask, are you as a head coach stupid? Yes, I'm obviously stupid." Then, discussing Gabriel Busanello's mistake before the first goal, he added, "Shit happens. It is symptomatic that we are playing backwards. This is a problem we have had for a damn long time. I have tried to get my players to understand that we do not play the ball backwards to our goalkeeper. Our goalkeepers are not our playmakers. Instead of taking the responsibility to play forward, we had lateral passes and passes towards home that I do not really understand." Report by David Irvin. Evening Times Sport, September 27. James Tavernier responds to Rangers transfer exit links. Report by David Irvin. James Tavernier has admitted he owes a great debt to Rangers for the opportunity to play for and captain the Ibrox side, as he responded to transfer exit speculation. The 32-year-old right-back was heavily linked with a switch away from Rangers in the summer, with Turkey and Saudi Arabia touted as possible destinations. However, Tavernier remained at Rangers and has brushed aside rumours over his future in Glasgow, as he insisted, "I have still got a lot to achieve." Speaking to Sky Sports about the transfer speculation, Tavernier said, "There were always going to be reports and links. I am in contract until the end of next season. Rangers have always given me that platform to play my football and the foundations to do something that a lot of people would love to do. So I have always got a great debt to pay, but it is football. If teams come in, they come in. But I am fully focused on the job in hand, and I know I've still got a lot to achieve. The defiant Rangers skipper then accepted his share of fierce criticism in the aftermath of defeat to Celtic earlier in the month. However, he did say abuse can go too far at points, as he rolled out, poring over the angry scenes following the Derby loss. It is part of parcel with football. You see it up and down the country, he said. As fans, they want to display their frustration. You can understand the frustration that people have, and obviously, us as players are frustrated as well. We never go out there wanting to lose a game, or even draw a game, especially playing for Rangers, as we always want to win. We will always give our 100% effort to that cause. On certain days it can go too far, but it is something in the past. It is not something I dwell on. I always keep looking forward, and obviously it motivates me more to do better. Report by David Irvin.
From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 28th of September, from the sports section. Rodgers unhappy at how much TV deals dictate modern football, by Robbie Hanratty. Celtic manager Brendan Rodgers has voiced his frustration over the scheduling disparities affecting his team's preparation for the UEFA Champions League match against Borussia Dortmund. While Celtic visit St Johnstone on Saturday evening live on Premier Sports, Dortmund played their home Bundesliga match against VfL Bochum on Friday night, allowing them more recovery time. Rodgers believes that British broadcast deals hinder clubs in Scotland and England, making it challenging to compete in Europe. He argues that more support is needed for teams to adequately prepare for such crucial matches, and then we might see a stronger collective result. I think for all British teams it's a frustration, the Northern Irishman said. Borussia Dortmund will play Bochum on Friday. They moved the game a day earlier, so it gives them 3 or 4 days to prepare for our game. We will probably not be home until after midnight from the game on Saturday, and then it's a very, very quick turnaround, travel, and then you're playing the game. For most British teams, the TV slots and everything seem to take priority over the actual game and preparation. But we're not the only team that's happened to. I've seen it for a number of years now. The European guys, they will have their slots and they'll find agreements to help their teams prepare the best they can. And that article was by Robbie Hanratty. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 28th of September, from the sports section. St Johnstone 0, Celtic 6. Kyogo nets double in dominant win. Report by Gavin McCafferty. Kyogo Furuhashi struck twice as Celtic continued their imperious start to the season with a 6-0 triumph over St Johnstone in Perth. The Japan forward scored either side of Paulo Bernardo in the final 10 minutes of the first half. Callum McGregor added to the lead with his 4th long-range goal of the season. Daizai Maeda got on the scoresheet after having a first-half effort controversially disallowed, and substitute Adam Idah rounded off the scoring. Brendan Rodgers' side have now won their first 9 matches of the season, scoring 33 goals along the way, and have totalled 17 consecutive victories stretching back to last term. With Austin Trusty starting in place of the injured Cameron Carlton-Vickers in central defence, Celtic maintained their record of not conceding a goal in the William Hill Premiership this season following their 6th match. Rodgers will now take his side to Germany to face Champions League runners-up Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday, in top form. Celtic were regularly getting the ball to Furuhashi in behind a deep-lying Saints team from the start, and the Japan forward was twice denied by Ross Sinclair before the goalkeeper was beaten by Maeda's first-time volley in the 26th minute. However, referee Don Robertson was called to the monitor by video assistant Alan Muir, with Graham Carey lying injured in the box. It looked like the Saints midfielder had been knocked down in an accidental collision with Trusty after moving out the way of the Celtic defender's run, as Arnott Engels lined up to take a free kick, but Robertson disallowed the goal for a foul. Saints lost captain Kel Cameron to injury and replacement Aaron Essel took time to adjust. He was quickly beaten in the air by Trusty as the defender headed wide before Furuhashi finished impressively after the visitors got the break of the ball from the resulting goal kick and Nicholas Kuhn headed the striker clear. The champions doubled their lead in the 43rd minute after a passing move involving 9 players that started with Kasper Schmeichel's goal kick and ended with Bernardo sending a dipping strike from 22 yards into the corner of the net following Furuhashi's layoff. Furuhashi then headed home from Greg Taylor's precise cross following some one-touch football to make it 3-0, while the left-back came close in stoppage time before making way for Alex Val during the interval. Furuhashi fired just over 90 seconds into the second half, but McGregor's 25-yard drive got out Sinclair in the 54th minute after the captain received the ball from Kuhn following a short corner. Sinclair then denied Kuhn after a wonderful pass from Engels, and Maeda missed a chance before getting his goal in the 72nd minute when he headed Bernardo's cross high into the net. Schmeichel had earned his clean sheet with an excellent second half stop from Essel down at his near post. 3 substitutes combined for the 6th in the 83rd minute as Val backheeled to Luke McGowan's lofted pass into the front of Ida to slot home. McGowan hit the inside of the post and forced a good save before the full-time whistle put St Johnstone caretaker manager Andy Kirk and his team out of their misery. An article written by Gavin McCafferty and read by me, Ian McKenna. From the Glasgow Times, Saturday the 28th of September, from the sports section, Stevie Ray on possible final MMA fight at PFL Glasgow after Celtic bow, by Graham McPherson. Mixed martial artists spend more time than most in the company of medical staff, making it perhaps not a huge surprise that one of them is considering it for a possible future career. Stevie Ray doesn't know exactly what lies ahead for him after tonight's homecoming at the Hydro, when he returns to the Glasgow stage as co-headliner of a stacked PFL Europe card, but he is keeping all his options open for the time being. How he fares and how he feels after his contest with Lewis Long will heavily influence whether this serves as his farewell in the ring or not, but the veteran is aware that, after a decade and a half at the sharp end of this physically demanding and draining pursuit, the moment is approaching to move forward in another direction. That will still include MMA in some shape, with the former UFC warrior already coaching the next generation of combatants at the Braveheart Gym in his native Kirkcaldy. Ray, though, wants to also explore other opportunities, especially with 4 mouths to feed at home and a mortgage to pay like everyone else. Admitting he didn't give the best account of himself during his school days, the 34-year-old wonders aloud whether a period of study with a view to moving into a medical field might not be the worst idea. It's such a mind F this game, because training's never as enjoyable when you have to go, he says. But the way I'm feeling this week actually, I'm thinking, you know what, I could do this again. So I'm going to wait and see how the fight goes and how my emotions are afterwards. But I'm getting older and carrying some injuries. My wife hates this as well, me fighting. Not the fact that I'm getting potentially beat up, but she doesn't enjoy the life, me training every day and every night, because you have to be all in or all out. I could go into full-time coaching, maybe do seminars now and again, that's probably the most realistic. But it's not until I've got older that I've realised I'd actually like to do something pretty good with my life. I'd like to go and get a doctor's degree at uni, or do something like physiotherapy or become a chiropractor, something to do with the body and health. I mean, I don't know if that would be possible when you've got commitments like a mortgage and 4 kids, but I quite like the idea of learning. When I was at school, I was just a complete rebel, wasn't interested at all. I was there for a laugh with my pals. Now that I'm older, I wish I had struck a wee bit more, because I know I've got a set of brains, even though they've been battered a few times. So maybe I could go and learn something new. That would be good. Ray had already entered semi-retirement after last year's defeat to Clay Collard at PFL 6 in Georgia, but the chance to fight again in Glasgow, alongside many of his higher level MMA training partners, was something he couldn't turn down. I said to myself and my coach last year that if I was going to do one more, I'd like it to be Scotland. He reveals, and as it happened, PFL were coming to Glasgow and I knew I had to be involved. Just the buzz of even walking out to that atmosphere will be great. I fought in the Hydro twice before, won one and lost one, both by knockout, so I've experienced both sides. I'm just going to try and enjoy it this time. This evening will be Ray's second public appearance in Glasgow in the past 6 days. Last Sunday, the lifelong Celtic supporter was welcomed onto the pitch to help make the half-time draw during their Premier Sports Cup tie against Falkirk. And, unlike Santa Claus last December, Ray mercifully didn't get booed with the team trailing at the break. Nah, I got a few cheers he laughs. I've supported Celtic all my life, but I never really went to the games until I was an adult. That was my first time on the pitch, and my daughter came on with me, so that was a pretty cool experience. My boy used to like Celtic too, but the wife's dad is a Hearts supporter, so the wee man's a Jambo now. The traitor. Although I say they're bottom of the league, so maybe he's not made the best choice there. And the article was written by Graham McPherson.
Evening Times Sport, September 30. Clermont blames tight turnaround for tired Rangers. Report by Graham McGarry. Philippe Clermont has criticised the timing of Rangers' match against Hibs, admitting that he wanted a better performance from his team in their win at Ibrox, but that his players were tired from their midweek trip to face Malmo. Rangers arrived back from Sweden in the early hours of Friday morning before facing a noon kick-off as they returned to league duty in front of a full Ibrox for the first time this season. And Clermont said lack of rest may have been a factor in a rather lacklustre showing for the most part against Hibs. A stunning Tom Lawrence strike and a Jack Butland penalty save got Clermont's men over the line, but the Rangers manager says the authorities should consider protecting the product when it comes to the fixture schedule. When asked if he was satisfied to dig out the win despite a below-par performance, Clermont said, "No, you want performance also, of course, and I think we did in the first half in some moments, but not enough. But my colleagues spoke also about that last week, I think. In a lot of countries now, the last couple of years, you look at fixtures, and when they are played all over Europe, or there are even teams where teams don't have to play when they have to play Europe, like we have had with Kiev, for example. So you play today at 12 o'clock after a European trip, where you come home around 2 o'clock. Then you need to drive back home, so players get to sleep if they are lucky around 4. You have the next day training. You lost one night of sleep. You have 1 night of sleep, and this one is also a short one, because you need to wake up really early to be ready for the game. So yes, I saw a few players, or several players, or almost everybody, who played on Thursday, and even the guys who didn't play, that they were less fresh than in the last couple of weeks. It's normal. So it's important to take the 3 points, and we also had the ball and the best chances in the game. So that's what you want, to keep the clean sheet. Do I want better football? Yes, for sure. But do the players want that? They also, yes, for sure. You want to see what you saw on Thursday, but it's important also in these moments when you are less fresh, when you are tired, to dig in, to get the results, and the deserved result, and to take the 3 points, and then focus on Thursday. Clermont has not spoken to the SPFL about the issue of fixture congestion this season, but he urged the game's governing bodies to consider the players and fans more, rather than just the needs of the television companies. And he said, "At the end, it's you guys or the television who decide, apparently, but it's something to think about if you want to have a good quality product, that you think about those things also. Because it's a massive difference to sleep longer today and have a 3 or 5 o'clock kickoff. It's a big difference. And I understand people who never played, who never travelled in that way. They don't understand because it's like you need to be there every game and you need to run every time because you're well paid. And that's also true. But there's a difference for every athlete in every sport. Report by Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, September 30. Dortmund defensive woes ahead of Celtic clash. Report by Mark Walker. Former Liverpool and Manchester City star Dietmar Hamann has pinpointed Borussia Dortmund's defence as their weak spot ahead of tomorrow's UEFA Champions League showdown with Celtic. Celtic travel to Germany full of confidence after their perfect start to the season continued with a 6-0 hammering of St Johnstone. They can expect an altogether different challenge in their second game of the new-look format to Europe's premier competition against last season's Champions League runner-up. But Dortmund have looked vulnerable at the back, having conceded 7 goals in their last 2 games, following a 5-1 defeat at Stuttgart and a comeback 4-2 win against local rivals Bochum. And Champions League winger Hamann, who also played for Bayern Munich and Newcastle United, has highlighted Dortmund's problem. He said, Borussia Dortmund appeared to be all over the place at the back at the moment. There was no organisation to their defending. No one seems in control. I got nervous just watching them trying to defend. They must improve significantly over the course of the season, both in the league and in Europe. The Stuttgart debacle posed a lot of questions about them defensively, and to be honest, I do not think we will get many answers this season. Report by Mark Walker. Evening Times Sport, September 30. Simone Valacari says that talks over St Johnstone vacancy have not happened yet. Report by Ewan Payton. Simo Valacari has all but confirmed he will hold talks with St Johnstone over their vacant manager's position. The Riga head coach last night told media in Latvia that he had not spoken to the Scottish Premiership side yet. However, permission had been granted by his current club. The 51-year-old, who has previously managed Tromsø and KUPS, won the Latvian Super Cup last season. And the Finn said, I'm Riga Football Club head coach. They have asked permission to talk with me by the club. The club said yes, but I have not been talking with them yet due to respect of my players and due to respect of this game. Saints have been made to play the long game in their search to replace Craig Levein, who was sacked 2 weeks ago. Scott Brown opted to stay at Ayr United following talks and subsequently signed a new contract. Meanwhile, both Peter Levin and Tiernan Lynch turned down the vacancy in favour of remaining at Aberdeen and Larne, respectively. Report by Ewan Payton. Evening Times Sport, September 30. Rangers boss baffled by Hibs penalty. Report by Stuart Wilson. Philippe Clement was glad to watch Rangers extend the winning run, but the Light Blues boss just was not having the penalty that Hibs were awarded during the 1-0 victory. Jack Butland saved that first-half penalty, which was awarded after VAR advised referee Nick Walsh that John Souttar had handled the ball inside the box. But Clermont has witnessed similar incidents go unpunished over the past few weeks and questioned the officials' thinking this time around. My question is, why is that a penalty? An animated Rangers manager asked during his post-match interview. You have a player who puts his leg up to go to the ball, so he's wide. At that moment, he sees the other player make contact, so he makes himself smaller to put his arm in front of him, and then the ball touches him, and his arm goes up. In that short distance, I've seen this situation in the last couple of weeks, where people have had their arm out of their body, and there was no penalty. It was discussed before the season not to give those easy penalties from short distance in those moments. For me, it's not a penalty. Clermont also discussed the challenges posed by juggling both European football and domestic duties, and he confessed the performance was not incredible, but that's difficult playing that early after a European game away. The recovery time was much less. Some leagues look at giving teams more recovery time. I saw less freshness in the players than I have in the last couple of weeks. That's normal. Hibs boss David Gray provided his take on the 90 minutes and said, I will never accept losing games of football, but if there is a way to lose, it's probably that. The players put absolutely everything into that. I can't fault it at all. The game plan was good. The chances we created were good ones. The least we deserved was a point. The boys are gutted because they put so much in, but there's a lot of positives to take, so there's very mixed emotions. I thought we were going to get the goal, and if we got one, I think we would have gone on to win the game. Report by Stuart Wilson. Evening Times Sport, September 30. Scottish horse racing stables up for sale. Report by Ian McConnell. A celebrated Scottish racing stables that has produced nearly 1,000 winners in recent years is up for sale at offers over £750,000. Property agent Galbraith, which is handling the sale, declared that this winner's total was a record for Scotland and described the sale as a superb opportunity to acquire a celebrated equestrian property. Belstane Racing Stables extends to about 7.56 hectares or 18.68 acres. It includes Belstane Farmhouse, stabling for 127 horses, indoor and outdoor gallops, indoor and outdoor riding arenas, 2 motorised horse exercisers, extensive staff accommodation with additional office and reception areas, and land which is suitable for grazing or mowing. The Lanarkshire property is about 1 mile from Carluke. Alistair Christie of Galbraith, who is handling the sale, said, "This is a superb opportunity to acquire a celebrated equestrian property with excellent facilities and staff accommodation. The purchasers would be well positioned to continue a similar equestrian enterprise, and there is also an attractive farmhouse as the principal residence. The location is also highly convenient, less than an hour from the centre of Glasgow, and within easy reach of Edinburgh and the Central Belt. This is Scotland's best-known horse racing establishment." Galbraith said, "The extensive range of high-quality equestrian and agricultural buildings at Belstane includes timber-built stables, various stores and sheds, a workshop, task room, and stables of steel portal frame construction. The farmhouse has well-presented accommodation with modern fixtures and fittings, including 4 bedrooms, the master bedroom with ensuite and walk-in wardrobe, 1 reception room, attractive kitchen and extensive ancillary accommodation, including a utility room, office, cloakroom and family bathroom. The staff accommodation is well presented and is divided into 2 wings, with the south wing accommodation having 4 double bedrooms, shower room, office, WC, storeroom, kitchen and boot room. There are 2 covered motorised horse walkers, a Monarch system with 10 spaces, and a Claydon system with 6 spaces.
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q and Review and to tell your friends about our service